Welcome to 21st Century Saints Live, a podcast and live stream series for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, those who are affiliated, adjacent, those who can't stand the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's all of the Mormon stuff's happening right here. We got so sick of it always being an American-based discussion. We thought, you know what, let's do it ourselves. So this is a chance for us to talk about things that matter to us, about people here in the UK who are living Mormonism and about their lived experience. Alana, what day is it today?
It is the 8th of September 2021.
It is. Are you surviving?
Just about.
So being in Scotland, we are used to having no weather other than rain that falls at a slight angle for most of the year, and other than that, it's broken up with occasional snow. And this is what the second heat wave. And we're all, at first everyone was walking around smiling and it was so nice, and now everyone's just walking around looking at each other just like, oh pal.
Well, it's very, very unusual for us to get such good weather at this time of year. Very unusual. And here's a piece of useless information that I came across. With the lack of rain, the wee reservoir, or whatever you call it, where the water comes from, is only half full. Like for us, where it comes from us locally. I was looking at this today. So it's causing what's it called? Not magnesium.
Hosepipe ban?
No.
That
stuff in the water. The stuff that's in the water, that thing I was telling you about. Not magnesium.
Algae.
No, it's something along that kind of term anyway. So it's been causing problems for people's water, and that's the reason, because of the lack of rainfall, it's not filling up the water.
I did not know that. That is terrible. Scottish water is beautiful. You know, everywhere else where you have to filter it or, you know, buy the bottled stuff, Scottish water comes out of the tap giggling and like, come and drink me, you're so pretty. Okay, anyway, so we're good, we're ready to go, except we're a little bit melting here. I'm really excited again about our guest, another one of the Brit Vengers team. We have Mark Johnson. You want to say hi to her? I know you just said hi.
Hello everybody. Mark Johnson here, and I'm not sure if I'm one of the Brit Avengers. I'm one the guy behind the scenes, but
the guy in the chair.
In the chair, maybe.
No, absolutely no. Hey, there's a few of us. So although we've got the regular podcasters, there are a few of us. There's a whole Sunstone team, and we're going to be interviewing some more Brit Vengers over the next couple of weeks. So I do seem to have a couple of internet issues today. I do apologise if we're kind of going to be going in and out a little bit. I'm sure Alana will take over if it gets a bit tricky.
Yeah. You cursed it. You just said the internet issues and you had them. So.
Yeah, well, because you guys didn't notice the first, you know, the internet here I think it's the heat. The internet here just died this afternoon, and so we're all just like keeping it going by force of will. Anyway, so we've got more of the team that we're going to be able to interview, because we've got Sunstone this month when most of us will be able to come and hang out. And we are, of course, going to be having a Sunstone episode of 21st Century Saints, which we're so keen about. And because Alana and I, you know, we've got a lot of childcare, we don't really get to get breaks, we don't really get to get sleep. We are so looking forward to coming to Sunstone. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great to catch up with everyone. We're going to learn some stuff. But also, we are very much seeing this as some fun for us. So what we decided we'd like to do is, because we're going to come and do this trip, because we're going to be getting to do this episode, we thought it would be really fun to, and a little bit lazy, to say, hey, listen, why don't we hand over the reins of the show for that episode over to you. Because you've interviewed loads of people for Sunstone UK, you know what you're doing, you know, and that way we can just sort of, you know, enjoy the experience of being on the other side of the mic.
So I'm going to get to interview you guys, aren't I? So I need to come with a bunch of questions and yeah, okay.
Yeah. So
so I have started them, as you've seen, but we'll leave it to the day. But I'm building up a few questions, and we should have a good show. I'm really looking forward to it. And I think the subject matter is really interesting as well. The Brit Vengers and the UK Mormon moment. I think it'll be really good.
Definitely. And we'll talk a little bit more about that just shortly. So, but we want to start off by introducing you to our audience because although we've spoken before, so many of the Brits here and the people who watch our show from the other side of the world haven't really met us before and don't really know who we all are. So Mark, would you like to maybe kick us off then by sharing a little bit about your Mormon background? How did you come into the world of Mormon?
Yeah, it's a long old story. So as we discussed earlier on, I'm reasonably old, 49. Maybe 49 is the new 30. I don't know. So how did I join the church? My mum joined. I'm not sure. I never worked it out really. My mum joined the church when I was about 6, 7, I think it was. So I was baptized at 8, but so I'm not sure if that makes me a first generation or second generation. I'm not sure. So we were, my mum, she was a single mum. Missionaries knocked on her door. We lived in a small town called Barrow-in-Furness, which is in the northwest of England. Big industrial town, lots of shipbuilding. She was a single mum. The missionaries knocked on her door, and she liked the message. I think it sort of expanded the horizons a bit beyond the small town. Before that, we were brought up Catholic. I come from a really strong Irish Catholic background. I know we lived in England, but my grandfather and my grandmother as well were sort of from Ireland, were relations from Ireland. So strong Catholic background. I remember as a child my grandmother going on trips to Lourdes. So anyone who's in the UK knows about Lourdes. It's a place in France where there was a miracle happened, and also to Knock as well in Ireland. So strong Irish background, Catholic background. But the missionaries knocked on our door and converted us when I was about 7. And I remember the missionaries' names actually. There was an Elder Davis and there was an Elder Rose, who I think is a big shot at BYU basketball nowadays. He's like team manager or something like that. So joined the church in a small branch and grew up there as in a single parent family. We moved down to London when I was about 10. My mum remarried or married someone, but that didn't last very long. So I spent my formative. So I was in the northwest, small branch, and then my formative years in London. So Stratford Ward, Hyde Park Stake, which was an interesting place to be a teenager. Really good. And the church was a really good support. I had an amazing time in youth. I actually started going to church dances when I was about 12, because maybe younger actually, because my mum was on the dating scene and she used to go to dances and take me because she couldn't find a babysitter. So
that's so lovely.
Yeah. So me and my brother. So there was me. In fact, the brother. I got a brother. So she used to take us both to dances. So teenage years in London. Served the mission a bit late. So I went out when I was 21. I went to the England Bristol mission. Interesting story about that. I was when I got my mission call, I was actually called to the England Manchester mission, and because I grew up in the Manchester mission area, I just said to my stake president, I said, look, I'll go to Manchester, don't mind wherever you sent me, but I've got loads of friends and relatives in that area. Do you really want to send me there? And he made a phone call, and about half an hour later, I got called to the Bristol mission. So I was going to go to Manchester mission, but I ended up in Bristol. So served there 93 to 95. And it was really good. I enjoyed my mission. and then came back. And I think I was married. Came back. In the meantime, my family had moved. My mum had remarried again. They'd moved to Ireland. We lived in Ireland for a little bit. In fact, before my mission, she went over to Ireland when I was about 16. I stayed in London on my own, but I did spend some time in Ireland, in Limerick, in a small branch there. But yeah, when I came back off a mission, my family had moved back to England, the northwest. So I came back there, and I was married within like 18 months. I want to say, no, it wasn't. I was married maybe 2 or 3 years actually. Came back in '95, married in '97.
And how long were you dating for before you got married? In the Mormon world.
It was really quick for the UK actually. So we were dating for about 3 weeks before I asked her to marry me.
Oh wow, that is quick.
So
That's impressive.
Yeah, that was very quick.
Could we pause a little bit and just rewind? Because
Yeah.
I want to ask about your youth experiences. Did you enjoy being in youth? I mean, I would imagine to serve a mission, you must have had some pretty positive experiences in the church as a teen. What's it like?
Youth was really good, and because I was in Hyde Park stake, and so around the Greater London areas, like certainly at the time, there's like 5 different stakes. So there was like Crawley Stake, Romford, Maidstone, Wandsworth. So like there was always something going on every weekend as a youth. So I'd either be every weekend I'd either be at a dance or a convention, or I would just visit another ward. There was one ward I used to visit loads, and the bishop asked me if I wanted a calling, and that sort of put me off going from. I took it easy after a while after that, but yeah. So youth was really good. If anyone remembers the famous Hyde Park dances and the Imperial College dances, they were a really big thing, and certainly when in the time I was in youth. Wandsworth did really good ones as well, and then obviously the Reading dances as well. So yeah, youth was a really positive experience. We had in our ward, I think we had quite we must have had like, I didn't have loads, but maybe 10 youth that sort of came and went, but it was a good solid youth attendance. And we had the Pakefield conventions at that time, so and we did stake dances, Pakefield convention, stake roadshows, stake athletics, stake swimming, and then that went to the regional ones. So it was a really good and enjoyable youth. And
this is pretty alien to me, because the UK scene, I suppose, it really has quietened down. You were sort of part of that heyday of when it was really fun, and you would totally invite your mates. It was fun to be around. I know that in our ward, I remember sort of people moving into our ward who were all teens around about the same time. So they all had this sort of shared interest, a shared background. And what I thought was wonderful is, even when there were people who weren't active in the church anymore, they were all still really great friends. You know, they would still be in touch, and I mean, not necessarily everyone, obviously, but you know, people who really did make connections, those connections tended to stay. And I thought that's just golden. You don't really get that now.
No. I'm still in touch with a few friends from that area, and I can see like even there's a lot of friendship groups that were around then, and that have now left the church, but they're still friendship groups.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that whole scene was, I think the church lost a lot by. I don't know if it was a conscious discouragement of all that, or I know certainly when I was growing up, there was a few area authorities who weren't keen on youth travelling outside their stake, tried to discourage it.
I mean, if it was, I don't know, I suppose in a really big area with a lot of people in the stake, but when stakes in the UK are so small, it's a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah, why? Yeah, I just don't get the rationale for that. So youth was really good. I just loved it. It was and you know, I didn't brought it. Did I bring any non? No, I don't go. I wasn't a very good missionary as a as a youth, but I know friends who brought them along, and yeah. When they said the prayers at the end of the dance, there was a few strange looks from. You could see who there's a non-member who like looking around. What's going on here? Why are you praying at a disco?
Yeah, we always start with a prayer.
Yeah.
Do you think there was any difference? I know that you mentioned area leadership. Do you think there was any difference in sort of local level leadership about what was expected or what people were willing to do? Why do you think it's different now? Do you have any thoughts?
No, I think maybe because we haven't done it for that long. It's not been a thing in the UK, so there are pockets of it. So the stay come in at the moment, they do. I think COVID's, but they have done dance festivals for for years and years, and it's a thing that the Manchester State does. So I think there are some areas, some people who do it, but I think generally we've just got out the habit of it. Yeah. Like there's a few people I speak to my age who, as a guy, and it's like he tries to get stuff going, but sometimes there's pushback, like no one's interested. I think they've tried to organise road shows, and people are just not that bothered, not interested.
I think when things have stopped like that for so long, because I remember back in the day we were always so looking forward to the road shows, like it was the highlight, and I think when you've stopped doing something for so long, like it becomes alien then to our youth generation, so they're like, I don't know what to do a road show, I think if they'd have kept them running, then it would have been the done thing, but I think because it's so not done now that it's like the kids are looking like, what, a road show, like what you talk about,
and
and that's the sad thing. Like I was speaking to Jane about this a while back, how just the lack of everything within the youth programme, because even within my youth days, there was dances, as you say, there was the road show, I was annoyed because they took the golden green ball away, before I got the chance to go, all these things that were running, and I said, what is there to keep our youth? Because there's more of a pull in the world, there's more of a social life in the world than there is within the church. And so they wonder why we're losing so many of our youth in YSA, and that's why, because they don't have enough on to keep them. I know there's a part of responsibility on the people as well. The church can't be responsible for their whole social life. But I think there still has to be things to keep them committed. And, I'm not saying that that's the sole reason that keeps you committed, but I think it does help. Because when these things kind of fizzle out and stop, then they look and they go, so what is there to do? And they may start going to a nightclub, they may start going out to a pub, for the karaoke. And then as, the church teaches, when you go into those places, Satan gets a grip on you and you leave the church. So it's sad.
It's sad. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of them, but does the Granada Studios dances mean anything to you?
I've heard of Granada Studios, but I don't know what the dance is.
Yeah. There was a member in Manchester Stake actually, who was I think he worked at Granada Studios already, but he did DJing on the side, and he a bit of a local celebrity and stuff like. Really good guy. I'm not going to mention his name because he's still a member and all that sort of stuff. But he ran dances. They were at chapels. He did a lot of church dances at chapels, but he also started doing these I won't say commercial dances, but you had to pay to get in because he had to hire the place. But he would only invite church members, so he did them at Granada Studios. There was the North Meet South dances. I think they were in the Midlands somewhere, but this guy did that. So and hundreds and hundreds of youth would come to them, and it was this was like probably early 90s, and I spoke to him a few times because I used to run a website that listed all the activities in the UK, and he used to give me a discount on the tickets because I put his up there. But he said to me the only reason, one of the main reasons he does these dances is to keep if they don't come here, they're going to go to a nightclub.
Absolutely.
Introduced to whatever. So he was filling the gap. There's a gap there, and that's why he was doing it. And so I think you're right. You're exactly right in what you're saying. If there's nothing, kids will
they'll look elsewhere for it,
isn't there?
Yeah. Out of curiosity, do either of you know were gold and green balls an American thing too, Alana?
No, we had them. And there
Right,
was the Rose
it
Ball as
wasn't just
well.
a UK thing then. So it was a.
Yeah, there was a golden
Oh.
green ball, and I think that was in the autumn, and the Rose Ball was in the spring.
There was a Alana. Behave yourself.
I can't help it. Julian's making me laugh.
We don't have we've got an after dark episode we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks where it might there potentially may be
colourful
swearing and I get Mormon Mad is going to be coming to join us for a little chat.
Mormon Mad. Okay.
So we're going to be having fun. Anyway, okay, since we're going to get our minds back out of the gutter, Alana.
My mind wasn't in the gutter. I was just laughing at Julian's comment about karaoke being Satan's tool.
Literally, my kids can't read. Can't read anything. We can't say the word ball in our house without it being met with a ton of giggles. So I do apologise. It's just I'm just
honestly that's not what I was laughing at. I was genuinely laughing.
Just giving people a row for like a little
just because it's so true. Like how many times I've heard that, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to. It's not just the UK. So my brother, who grew up with, he moved to Canada, Alberta, and there was a guy there that he was related to, and he used to do church dances, and it sounded like a very similar scene over there, but that seems to have fizzled away as well. So I think it's like a church-wide thing where all these social activities have just been.
I'm just wondering, back in the olden days when I first joined the church and I missed all of this. I mean, maybe this is rose-colored glasses, but it feels like things were a lot cheaper. It feels like you could hire transport, or everyone would carpool. You could go to the beach. You could have dances. People were willing to sort of give up their time because they didn't. It just seemed a bit easier. Trying to organise things now seem to come with a pretty big price tag, and I wonder if we invested financially in the youth, if we gave the youth programs a good budget to work with.
I think obviously back in my youth and things as well, if you look at the fact of fundraising, you can't do that anymore now, whereas back in my younger days, we were able to have tuck shops and things like that at the dances and things like that. It was a bit more easy to do fundraisers, car washes, we used to go and do car boots and things to fundraise, but you're not able to do that anymore. So I think that, but I don't mean to bring this into it, but it angers me a little bit, because if you view it from a church perspective, they're saying about our youth and young ones are our future generation, but they're not putting enough into them. You've still got a very small budget. With us being a small ward, we don't have a huge budget. Obviously, I was in youth, for a few years. I was in young women's, and the budget isn't away up here. Our bishop was really good that if he wasn't really using the word budget at one time, he would kind of pull some of the budget to help us and things.
Yeah.
But I just think the church has the flipping money, so why are they not investing
more money we can
they wonder why we're losing people. But if they put the money into our youth, if that's what they're saying is a future generation, if they invest that money in them, and I don't just mean by paying for some money towards camp or towards temple trips, I'm talking about some of the fun stuff, for me, it's just bonkers. Jane's into all the church finances and things, which I've started to look into. She says it's amazing. I just think it's a joke, because they don't, they've got all this money and it's just sitting there. And I just think if they used it more wisely, we maybe wouldn't lose so many people. I'm not saying, to me, I view it as well as sometimes there's people like me who just leave anyway, because it's easier to just leave than sit through boring church. But you have the people that, they still believe in things like that, but they feel I've got no social life, because that was a big part for me, is that, I even get into my YSA, you had, sorry, I don't mean to make this about me, but, you had your YSA, but in our stake at the time that I was a YSA, you had your cliques, and I think that's very common within the church, And so, you had all these YSA who were meeting up in Glasgow, and here was the people away out in Airdrie who were never invited to go and have lunch or go and have a wee day out in Glasgow or whatever. So, and with very minimal YSA in our ward, it was very difficult. And so the pool did become too much for me, because a lot of my friends were not LDS, because it's not like America where every second house is an LDS member, or every house, I had very few people within our ward. And so the pool was stronger for me, with friends. So I did start going to nightclubs, I did start going to pubs, and, slowly I did go into that where I was drinking and things, because it was more fun. There was more stuff to do, and that's the sad thing. So if you're not providing enough for our youth in YSA, you're not going to keep them, because they are just going to look elsewhere for that social life, unfortunately.
Yeah, there'll be a vacuum and they'll just go, won't they? So yeah, but as well, even beyond the dances, I remember from my youth there seemed to be a lot more. I remember having firesides in people's homes, and you just do crate. Does anyone there was an activity, the fireside that people used to do where you were all on a plane, and the plane crashed. It's a bit morbid actually, and half of you went to heaven and half of you went to hell. Yeah, do you remember that one?
Yeah, and then there was a carnival one as well that we used to do quite often.
And
you got tokens and things like that.
On the plane one, so on the plane one, and I think it's on the church activities website, there's where you can find out what sort of activities. Here's some ideas. It says on the church activities website, don't do that activity.
Really?
don't, because we are sort of effectively role playing someone. You're going to heaven. You're going here. You're going to
but back in the day, it was the done thing. Everyone was doing it. I can't remember what the carnival one was called. You used to get loads of tokens, and you
to spend them. At
the end, depending on what you had, kind of thing. But it's crazy. It's crazy the things we used to do.
It's like there are really fun activities that when you look at a sort of deeper doctrinal meaning behind them. I mean, Alana and I, you'll remember we were doing it was the Parable of the 10 Virgins. This beautiful musical fireside, directed so beautifully by really talented young people in our ward. Twice we did this show twice, and the first time, just really, really special. I had a really powerful.
I didn't do it the first time. I only did it the second time.
Yeah, and then Alana's with us doing the second time, and the second time it was just completely different, because we had a more mature faith by that point, and we can sort of see, hold on a minute,
how horrific
5 of these women who could be us are not making it. That is horrific. It messed with So
it's so funny, like with things like that, Jane, because obviously, I grew up in the church, so I just went along with what I was taught, and these parables were told, and it was like, oh, that's great. But when my eyes got opened to some things, like with the 10 Virgins parable, I'm like, this is really horrible, and it made me feel horrible. Like, I enjoy a wee bit of performing. I'm not an actress by any means, but I enjoy performing and singing, but it made me feel horrible. And I'm like, I will never do that again. I will never do that performance again. And it was Jane who said that. She's like, the 10 Virgins parable is horrible the way it's taught within the church, and
the way it's taught in that performance.
Yeah, in the performance. And I'm just like, and I did not feel good at that point. I just wanted to bawl my eyes out. I'm like, this isn't right.
Yeah. I just noticed in the comments about the church has stopped fundraising for young men. It hasn't though. So certainly in my area, they fundraise for FSY or YS, whatever it's called, the Mormon Madrasa thing. They do, where they all go and for a week. So they fundraise for that. So fundraising is not stopped. It's just they choose.
I was sure there was something had come out that we weren't allowed to really do
once a year. We can do something once a year, and it should be for camp. That's
yeah.
So did you have friends in youth? Did you have other church friends at your school? Were you pretty isolated?
Yeah, I had friends. I had friends outside of church, but most of my social circle was in church, and a bit sad really, but there you go. But I had a few friends outside the church, but it was just a really good bunch of kids, and so So there was no need to. Oh, no need, but I just that was where the focus. There was a lot of activities going on, and so yeah, most of my sort of social life. And like I said, every weekend there was something going on, and even if there wasn't a dance, like I said, we'd go to someone's house, have a sleepover, and go to the local ward in the morning.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
It was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those are
it was really
memories.
good. Yeah,
Okay, so then you've served your mission. Now
yeah,
you're fulfilling your priesthood responsibilities,
yeah.
and you're married. So
Married, yeah. So I stood like between that sort of mission and time. The YSA was good. I actually met my wife at a roadshow. So I came visiting the Manchester stake, and the roadshows was on, and she was singing. So when she's a good singer. So after the roadshow, I went up to her and I just said, you're a really good singer, and we got talking, and then we got married like 3 months
wonderful.
later, whatever it was. so and I'd actually met her before. There's a camp in West Wales where this guy bought a camp with the sole purpose of having it for LDS stakes camps to be done there. Gethley in the West Wales. I think it's still going actually. So the Manchester stake would go down there for a camp, and I wasn't in the Manchester stake at the time, but I sort of invited myself because I had some friends in the area, and I'd actually met her on that camp, but I totally forgot about it. So, but then like 6 months later we met, and then we got married.
Typical Mormon wedding.
Yeah, and we actually got married like like Julian and Laura. We got married on Valentine's Day because in 1997 the Manchester Stake Centre. So yeah, and then the Preston Temple wasn't open at the time, so we had to go.
London.
We went down to London to get sealed the same day. So perfect Mormon marriage.
How was? Could I ask about your temple experience?
I was genuinely just about to ask that.
We've been doing this all day, by the way.
Temple experience.
That just came to my head when you said it.
Yeah, I went before my mission because you had to them days. Did I think it was weird? Yeah, I think I thought it was weird, but I sort of went along with it. I didn't really kick up a fuss.
Well, everyone's saying how wonderful it is, and you're going to have such a nice experience, and so why would you not just go along with it because everyone's bigging it up,
I like the words to the initiatory prayer. I always thought they were really nice.
Yeah.
The Celestial Room was a bit of underwhelming for me. I think I just thought it was like a nice hotel.
What hotels have you been to?
Yeah.
It's so strange to hear someone say something that isn't a conventional temple response. So my husband is a non-member, and whenever you're sort of showing all of the books and pictures, here's what the temple looks like, here's the Celestial Room, and he builds buildings is what he does.
Okay.
And he's looking at these sort of big chandeliers and the furniture, and he's like, it's really tacky.
Yeah.
And I was horrified. I'm like, no, it isn't. That's
the temple.
God's living room. How dare you? So it always interests me that whenever we get to have conversations about when it's just not quite what we expected. And what about your wife? Did she sort of similarly?
Yeah, she loved it actually. She liked it. She's quite she likes it. Yeah, she enjoyed it. It was a good experience for her. Obviously, she went through just before we got married, so she liked it. And then when we got married, we'd often go to when the Preston Temple was built. That was it. That was a few years after we got married. We'd often go to the Preston Temple for a date night and with a witness couple. And
do you know what? I love hearing stories about this. Like, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and things, and to hear that was a date night going to the temple, I don't mean it disrespectful, but it actually just makes me laugh a little bit because I'm like,
I would love
I would
that.
no see. I would be horrified. I would be like, "You're taking me to the temple for a date night." I
Yeah,
was like, "You're gone, mate." Like it's just
Yeah.
to me, and I respect that some people are okay with it, but just in my opinion, I'm like, nah, I
That's
don't go to the temple for a date night. That to me is not a date. Like,
yeah. Well, it
I
was.
mean, as I say, I respect people who do enjoy it and find it, but for me, I'm just like, nah, no chance.
We go
No
to two
chance.
drives on the way back, so that was the bonus.
Well, I suppose that's okay then. I'll let you off.
Yeah.
So you're living the Mormon dream then.
Yeah.
You're married, you're early 20s, you're in the trajectory in the UK for great things.
I am, yeah. So I think my callings were, they got me to teach the youth Sunday school a lot. I think because the youth, I didn't sound to brag, but the youth liked me. I'm quite a chill person, so I would never, I didn't like following the manual to the letter. I just thought it was pointless. So I'd pick a subject and we'd discuss it and debate it and that sort of stuff. So I was in youth a lot, youth Sunday school, and then obviously young men's as well. And then I think my last calling was actually technically I've still got a calling, but we'll come to that.
So do I.
My last active calling was the exec sec for the bishopric, I think it was. Yeah. So I didn't, I sort of served in the bishopric, but not quite yet. It wasn't long till I had my faith crisis.
Okay, so talk to me about how that comes about.
So I can't remember exactly. I remember, so it was around 2000, 2001. And I just can't remember. I remember looking for Mormon humor or something like that, and there was a website called, I think it was called Latter Day Lampoon, and it used to be, I guess it's like I'm trying to think of the equivalent nowadays. I don't think there is equivalent. the dark memes, Joseph Brigham Young meme stash, dank meme stash, similar to that. Quite critical humor of the leaders, and that probably and some of the things on there rang true to me. And I probably just went down the rabbit hole of church, history and all that sort of stuff. There was a website that's still going actually called xmormon.org. And where I was working at the time, this website worked particularly well with the web browser I had to use at work. So I was on it a lot at work. So I spent a lot of time reading xmormon.org and exit stories, and this is around 2000, 2001, and it was the usual stuff, just history, really, church history. I think I've always been I've never been like a true blue. I've always been a bit liberal, and one of the things I always used to hate was the pretentiousness and judgment of some church members. Yep. So something that sticks out in my mind, one of the wards I lived in, there was a lady who came who didn't have much money. She wasn't very, and she didn't have many nice clothes. And I remember a couple of members just really saying, "Oh, you need to come to church a bit more respectful," and she felt, and it's this thing. She's here. What's the problem? You know what I mean? Isn't the focus that someone's here and attending church, not what they would wear. So I've always been a bit, what's the word, liberal or not totally.
I think with that situation regarding the women's clothes, I think the best way to deal with that, instead of saying you need to wear better clothes to church, would be to say, is everything okay? Can we help you? Possibly take her to, a charity shop, or I think for America, is it a thrift kind of shop or something? And help her to get something decent. That to me would be the right thing to do, rather than kind of making her feel like, because comments like that can make people then walk away from the church because they think, I can't go because I don't have decent clothes. I don't care if somebody rocks up in their best shorts and a t-shirt because they're at church. I always taught my young women that someone's Sunday best might not be your idea of a Sunday best, but it might be their Sunday best.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've always been a bit cynical of some of the church culture, I think, and I never get the obsession with the white shirt and tie. So,
That's exactly my issue. The whole Sunday-based thing is really, it's a bit of an issue for me. Yeah.
So yeah, I went down the rabbit hole 2000, 2001, and yeah. So and I remember one of the last times the last temple I went in was the Edmonton, Alberta temple, because it was my brother's wedding, and my wife knew I was having doubts, and she was really stressed that I would get a temple recommend, even though I was having doubts. But I wasn't gonna let anything get in the way of me, going to my brother's wedding. So, and because it was in Canada, he actually got married in the temple. So, so we went. I remember that was like the last time I went to the temple was in Canada for my brother's wedding. So,
but again, to me, I don't think that there's anything wrong with going to the temple and having a recommend just because you're having doubts. I went to the temple with Jane a few years ago, and at that time I was really having doubts. I mean, I had chosen not to wear my temple garments fully and things, and Jane will tell you, like when she'd mentioned about going, I was like, but I can't go because I've not been wearing my garments, and it wouldn't feel right to just put them on to go to the temple. But I thought, well, why shouldn't I? Just because I'm having doubts doesn't mean I'm not worthy to go and see how that experience affects me, because I was wanting to see it, So for me, again, it goes back to this thing of, just because you're doubting doesn't mean that you're not worthy. It doesn't mean that you're not able to go into the temple just because you're having doubts.
Yeah.
So could we talk maybe about what, if you can remember and if you're comfortable talking about it, what some of those doubts looked like? So you've mentioned generally history.
Yeah, so multiple versions of the first vision. I remember one thing that sticks out in my mind was at the time it was when the perpetual education fund that the church announced for college people who wanted to go to college, and the idea was that the church would give you the money to go to the college and you could pay them back. Once you've graduated, and I think it was targeted at people in sort of poorer areas. But what got me was, for years and years, the church used to say to us, "Don't get into debt," and here they were, being a loan company, loaning people money to get education. And it wouldn't be so bad if they didn't gain any interest on it, but there was interest on there. And what made it even worse is the church didn't even put up the capital money for it. They got people to donate to provide the actual initial pot of money. So I remember that came out, and everyone saying it was a wonderful thing. I'm just thinking, this is the money making scheme. It's just, where's the Christianity or God in that? So, so it wasn't, it was history, and then there was cultural things. And at the time, I remember there was a friend of mine who had a business, and a state president bought the business, but his business, the way he did the deal was really unscrupulous and cutthroat, and this guy who had sat in state meetings, talking about honesty and reading scriptures, yet behind the scenes out of church he was like a total ruthless, he was an arsehole, basically. Sorry.
That's okay.
All these things sort of came together, and just said, look, what's the logical conclusion? Either it's true, or there's all these gymnastics you've got to jump through in your head. So I came out, decided it wasn't true, and stopped attending. That was around.
Well, if you're going to start bringing logic into it, then yeah.
So when you stopped attending, was your wife still active at that time then?
Yeah, she was.
And how did she take
it? Really hard. She took it really hard, and it stopped her going for a while, and she really struggled. And I was at the angry stage as well. I was, saying, what about this and what about that? And I'd be looking for anything that would, just angry at the church, at the sort of, it's told us one story, but the actual real story is totally different. So it was, she took it hard.
Yeah, I think that's quite a common thread.
Sorry?
I think that's quite a common thread with couples when one leaves and the other one doesn't. I think a lot of the partners take it quite hard,
Yeah. So that she said, she eventually started going back, and I would just stay home. And that was 2001. So she was well, I won't say she was a single mother, but she went to church on her own for a while. After I left, I dabbled a little bit with the spiritualism. I went to the spiritualist church for a while. That was quite interesting. Nice bunch of people.
I did too for a
Lots of
little
old people, I thought.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually dropped in to the Community of Christ because back in 2003, whatever it was, or that sort of time. Because there's a Community of Christ building about 5 minutes drive from my ward chapel. So I dropped in. I went in for 2 Sundays, but I never went back. Not for any bad reason. I just couldn't be bothered. so, but we'll come on to that later.
And so does your wife still attend? Oh, sorry. Does your wife still attend church then?
She does. COVID has stopped. She hasn't attended church since COVID kicked in. She's not rushing to go back. Not that she's lost the testimony, but I think she's just got out of the habit, and she's still a bit nervous about large gatherings.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the numbers are on the rise again, so I can understand that.
So I'm not sure when. She will go back eventually. It's just I think I've been more active in church stuff than she has over there.
It's where so many people are right now, and so many people are feeling really guilty about, we should be or we're not, and they're equating the feeling with sin, and it's everyone is experiencing this, so I completely relate.
And I know they're concerned about it in an area level as well. So I know it's it's a challenge. So she's still active, and I'm all over.
Would you think you have a shelf breaking moment, or had it just sort of built up?
No, it built up. Maybe it was a shelf breaking month or something like that. It just
kind of one thing after the other.
Yeah. And I just thought, I'm out really. So stopped paying tithing, started drinking coffee.
Woohoo! Bring on the coffee.
So well, Jay Goldman Kimball used to drink coffee. So good for him, good for me. So we didn't have kids until I was jumping forward a bit. I didn't have kids until our first was born 2006. So it took us a while to, we purposely didn't want kids too early. Wanted to travel a bit. We actually managed to get over to Palmyra and Kirtland before we had kids. We did a bit of a road trip round some of the church history sites.
Shame on you for not having children straight away. Shame on you.
Yeah. So like nearly 7-8 years into our marriage, it was before we had kids.
Yeah, and I spoke about that last week with Julian, and I think that's fantastic. That's to me the way it should be. Live your life a bit first, get to know one another first, and then
then have children later on. So we've got 3 now, and that's it. I think getting on in age. So we've got 2006, 2010, and 2013. So 2 girls and a boy. So they've attended church obviously since they were born. And I suppose there is a bit of a story around this. So I think 2 of them have got blessed, but one of them isn't. And when it came time for the eldest baptism, we were preparing to get it done, and I said I'm happy for them to get baptized as long as you let me do it, and they wouldn't let me do it.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't a power play. It was literally I really if my children are going to get baptized, I'm happy. I would like to do it. I think it's an important milestone in the life. I don't think I'm not totally I'm not. I wouldn't say I think I live the commandments mostly. So I think there's no reason why I can't do it. So
I love that. I love that you held that boundary. I remember a few years ago when I felt like I needed a priesthood blessing, and Charlie's not a member of the church, so there's a protocol, and that protocol really offends me. I feel like if I have something that I love my home teachers, ministering brothers. But if I want or feel impressed to ask for a priesthood blessing, then it should really be someone that I'm either comfortable with or I know that I can speak to.
Yeah, you've got
Or,
a relationship with, yeah.
So, and I remember the person that I felt I'm going to ask for a priesthood blessing was someone who was no longer active in church anymore. That was how, and the respect with which we were treated, and it was so sacred to me. It was just wonderful. So I really I think that's wonderful, holding that ground.
Yeah. And so that none of them are baptized, and it's not through, they can be baptized next week if they want. Just let me do it.
Yeah.
And so I think so. I had before COVID, I did have a conversation with my previous bishop, who is an amazing guy, really good. He was willing to let me baptize them, and I was pushing to do the confirmation again, but he wasn't quite ready to let me confirm them. But what was interesting, we had that conversation 5 years ago. You're going to let them back, and he said no. But I think the church rules have moved on a little bit, so he felt a bit more comfortable in letting me do it. But then COVID happened, and so obviously we might have that conversation again. But my oldest is now 14, nearly 15. I've got 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. In fact, he turned 8 this week. So I don't. Yeah, we might have that conversation again.
I think that's a good thing. I've changed. I used to believe 8-year-old. Yeah, that's fine. But I now believe and this is my personal opinion, that I think it's wise to wait till they're older, because I don't personally feel, one, that at 8 years of age, what sins of children at 8 really committed. My daughter's 8 right now. She was born in 2013 too. And I just think, what sins do they really have? They put this onus on them. That's you. Your sins are all washed away. You're clean. And I'm thinking, but they're 8.
Yeah.
My little girl shouts at me. She, doesn't do as she's told. But are they really like sins? They're just typical kid things to do as part of growing up. And so I, obviously not being with her dad anymore, and he's not a church member, I had made the decision anyway. I could have asked her dad, but I don't think he would have allowed it personally. But I had already then made the decision that I want her to wait till she's old enough to make that decision for herself, because I feel like even at 8, they're doing it because that's what they're taught. That's the thing to do. To me, they don't have that full understanding. People might disagree with me, but I just feel even at 8, you don't fully understand what you're getting into, because you're only going with what you've been taught. You get up and bear your testimony as an 8-year-old child because that's what you see everyone else doing. It's not because you have your true own full testimony. Well, I don't believe that anyway. So I think personally that's a good thing, that they're old enough to then really look at things and say, do I want to commit myself to this church as they're older? That's just my personal view.
And if they want to do it, I would support them, and I think they'd let me baptize them now. So I'm just pushing for the confirmation now. So is the next thing. The only downs, thing that makes me feel a bit bad is if they go to if there's a youth temple trip for baptisms, because they're not baptized. So she's left out of that a little bit. So
yeah, it's tough.
But that might happen.
Fingers crossed.
So what does your ex-Mormon life look like then? How
very Mormon, because I'm involved.
So you're not out partying and
that's it.
doing all the typical things.
So I'm probably like one of the longest serving ex-Mormons in the UK, because I remember getting together with a bunch of ex-Mormons in maybe it's 2006. So there was this. Well, I think it's still there. Exmormon.org, and as you post there, you get to know who the Brits are. So a few of us managed to connect and get together. I want to say 2006, 7, something like that. So there's been a sort of ex-Mormon community that I've been involved in the UK for many years, 15, 20, I don't know, whatever it is now, 14 years now. So it's quite active. I probably should have let it go long ago after having my doubts in 2001, but I think because my wife is still active, and my mum, who remarried, she's been married, she was still very active, and as is my brother in Canada and my sister who's married to the guy we both know. So I've still got a lot of Mormons around me, and some really good friends. who are I'm really close to. They're all members. So I am surrounded by Mormonism, and maybe that's why I haven't let it go, and I'm sort of still involved in the ex-Mormon community in the UK. And it's always interesting as well on the various UK ex-Mormon social places to say who appears. People I never thought you'd leave, or
Yeah.
But you only left because you wanted to sin, right?
Oh yeah. There was a
That's quite
Starbucks
a common
outside
thread
work,
that you hear within the church, that people only leave because they want to sin. It's not for any other reason.
Yeah. So ex-Mormon life is good. There's a lot of activities, and I think I've said this elsewhere. I think I do find it interesting in some ways. I like watching the church. It's interesting how this massive organization, the richest church in the world, how is it going to navigate the next 100 years? And I find it just intellectually interesting how they navigate that, and they keep on dropping clangers and doing stupid things. I was thinking, guys, why can't you get this right and keep the youth in and start doing dances again? But yeah, I do find it genuinely interesting as well. So I'm a bit sad, really, but it's.
So, what are your views for the church's future? What do you think it could look like?
I do, and we talked about. I think that I think they need to become. It needs to become an interesting place again. I just look at the Community of Christ. I think what they did with the restoration beliefs and turn things around. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learnt there. A lot of the stuff that Peter Bleakley said, I'm spot on with. I've said to Peter a few times, he's probably one of the only few people who's made me turn my head, thinking, he's probably got a point there. And there are some good things about embrace the uniqueness, not in the way Elder Holland has recently said it, but I think some of the doctrines. I think the church, the good church culture, can be amazing. It can do, the way that the wards and branches organising themselves. I think they could do a load of good in the local community. Look at all those buildings they've got. I think I'd like them just to become a bit more open to the world and less fearful and less mean to certain sections of society. I'd like to see them continue, but I'd like to see them change and go through some sort of reformation, like the Community of Christ does. But I think it's hard because it's a huge organisation. There's lots of self-interest there. There's a lot of people who are, who it serves them well to keep the status quo in the church. So I think it'll be a long time. The bigger they are, the harder they. It's like turning an oil tanker. It'll take a real long time for the church to change.
Do you still watch Conference?
No. I just watch the highlights next Mormon Reddit. I'll read the highlights.
Yeah, so you catch the generally what's going on.
Yeah, I didn't watch Conference when I was active over recent years, so I'm not going to watch it now.
So my ex-Mormon life as well is, I have started affiliate, attending the Community of Christ. So I visited once in 2003, briefly, but then after I can't remember when it was, maybe 2015. And watching John Hamer's interview with John DeLynn was amazing, and I thought I'd check out the Community of Christ again. So did a bit of research. I started attending my local Community of Christ, and I just thought, in some ways, part of the motivation was I got a bit sick of being a permanent ex-Mormon. Well, just always saying the church, you got this wrong, you got that wrong. But I'd rather have a positive message and say, well, I'm doing it. Yeah. Let's concentrate on something more positive rather than just constantly criticizing. So I thought it was a nice soft landing from the church, I think.
And what what I notice about you is, I mean, I can be very turned off when people are, I guess maybe it's tone policing, but if people are so critical of the church, there's just not a discussion. It's just, you're just taking cheap shots. It's boring
Yeah,
to me. It's just it can be really rude as well.
it's a bit juvenile. Just
Yeah,
yeah,
and if, like you said earlier, when there's anger, pain, hurt, that is completely understandable.
yeah. I
People
get it.
process whatever way you need to process. But yeah, I noticed that you're not someone who takes cheap shots. Who you have really interesting things to say, and that's why I think that's why I think I've been able to relate to you,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
why
yeah. I just think
interviews.
cheap shots don't get anyone anywhere. It doesn't move the conversation forward. It's not building bridges. But I get that people need to do that. So
Yeah.
people want to burn it down. I totally understand. But personally, I think I've moved beyond that, and I'd rather build bridges. So one of the things I'm trying to do at the moment is I'd love to see more interaction between the Community of Christ and the LDS churches in the UK, even if it's not at an official level, maybe at a more local level. So I've tried to get like a joint discussion on church history together for years. I remember asking one of the area authorities, and I think it was a guy from Scotland actually, but yeah, and the response I got back was, my suggestion was, let's get together and do a fireside on shared history between the Community of Christ, and the response was, what's in it for us? And I was just thinking, all right, let's end the conversation. You obviously don't get
Yeah.
it. It's just and my the bishop at the time, who I asked, use as a go-between, he apologized, and he just said, what can I do? He was embarrassed embarrassed to say that, get that response. But
And you're
we've
right.
managed to
It would
do
be
it. We have. We
It
had
would be fascinating. It would be so good to see that happen.
Yeah.
I think we can participate in interfaith things up until a point, but I think we tend to always come back to having to rest on our truth claims. We have to we have to be right. I remember recently, in recent years, there was a local mosque who had an open day, and we were trying to sort of be supportive and as a ward, and it ends up with members having to bear testimony of
Yeah.
the reality of Jesus in the mosque, and you're like, "Ugh,"
Guys,
so
not
yeah,
appropriate. Yeah.
to be able to communicate, I don't know, I think Community of Christ tends to make church members a bit nervous.
Because they're expecting them to be like them and try to convert them,
Yeah.
and it's not in
And
their
they
DNA.
don't.
They just don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the understanding, and I'm really generalizing, but the leadership's understanding of UK church history, general church history, that intersection, difficult things is so good, so
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So
They're really good, and they've also got an amazing campground on the
Mm.
Welsh borders, Dunfield House, and I think it would be an amazing place for state camps. So,
wouldn't it?
yeah,
Wouldn't it?
it'd
Yeah.
be. Yeah, have you been to Dunfield at all?
I haven't yet.
No,
That's
no,
on
okay.
my to-do list. Yeah.
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 So it's residential, really cheap. It's got a swimming pool, lovely grounds. I think it would be amazing for state camps and YSA camps. So that's one of my goals, to get an LDS stake to go to Dunfield House for a state camp and be a regular booker. I just hope they don't embarrass themselves and wreck the place. I'm trying to sit between two lines at two sides of the fence at the moment. And I certainly got beyond the angry stage. I think I'm more interested in building bridges and than tearing them down or taking cheap shots, like you say. So,
and what I enjoy
I'm
about
at a comfortable place. I haven't gone back. I think our Community of Christ congregation is having their first Sunday back next Sunday, but I don't think I'll go back yet because there's a lot on with Sunstone and everything. But I'll probably go back in a few weeks. So.
Well, since you bring up Sunstone, tell me how Sunstone came into your life, or how did you come into Sunstone's life?
I can't remember. So the first, I think, because I've been involved in the UK ex-Mormon community for so long, to me it feels just like an extension of that. So we used to meet in Weatherspoons, and some people would get beer and some people wouldn't, but we'd all have a good chinwag, and that'd be the thing, and it was brilliant. I remember the first one, Weatherspoons in Birmingham. We all got together and had a good moan about the church. But I just see it as an extension of that, and I can't remember who brought the idea up originally, but when the first one was arranged, I think Community of Christ were involved, and I think I just got involved that way through discussions on the various ex-Mormon boards for the UK. Sunstone's happening. I gave a presentation at the first one, and I did it on actually church dances in the UK, my favourite subject. So yeah, and I just went through the history of what was the heyday and memories and all that sort of stuff. So I gave a presentation. So I just got involved from then, and then as with the next few ones, I helped Sheldon out. Sheldon was the main organizer, but I helped in the background a little bit, just being on the committees and decided, helping where I can. And then also I've also, for the last few years, I've done the panel discussion where we've had a few people, giving different perspective and really just acting as a chair and really and kicking them off. So just to me, it's just an extension of the sort of ex-post-Mormon, progressive Mormon community in the UK. I've also attended the one in the States a couple of times.
Okay.
When I've been over for holiday. So luckily, the time Sunstone, we've been to Utah a couple of times. I love Utah. Really nice. Despite the Mormons, it's a really nice place to visit. So I've timed it to go. I've timed my holidays over there while Sunstone was on. So I've managed to pop into Sunstone a few times in the States, and that's been really interesting as well.
And you do a great job as a chair, and your interviewing skills are fantastic. You listen, and it's really, really great what you can bring out of people. Bringing us up then to right now. Tell me about right now. What is going on in your life? What have you got planned?
What have I got planned? Well, we've got Sunstone next week, so everyone should go to that in Birmingham. I've booked my hotel. So that's a big thing. That's for Sunstone. Church-wise, I'm still quite involved. I'm still involved in Community of Christ, so I'll be attending there. And I'm still on good terms with my local ward as well. So I do, because I think I'll be visiting the ward for the first time next week because my wife's grandmother started attending again after COVID, and she wants me to go and pick her up. So I'll go in and say hello. So I'm still on good terms with my local ward. The previous bishop I got on really well with, consider him a really good friend. He's actually a professor of religion.
Oh.
So he's aware of a lot of the issues, so we can have really good discussions about, historical issues and also, general church culture stuff that we, some things that we agree on, some things we don't, which is fine. But, because of his knowledge we can have a good discussion, and he's been really helpful.
Do you go to, if there's church activities on and you're invited, do you go to church activities? Yeah. And have you attended church, formal block church since you've left? What has that been like for you?
Yeah, it's I've had phases. There was a phase I went through, maybe late, I can't remember, maybe it was 2010ish, something like that, where I tried to attend, and I tried to be a cafeteria Mormon, but I couldn't keep my mouth shut, and I was accused of being too critical. and yeah, it just
by leadership, or what was
like
the
local members, and you'd be
right,
an elders
okay.
quorum, and they'd say Joseph Smith's only wife was Heather Smith, and I said, well, no, he was. It's like, so it was made clear that I.
And so I was just thinking there, just for anyone who may not know, what does the term cafeteria Mormon mean?
You pick and choose what you want to believe and what you don't want to believe. I think everyone is a cafeteria Mormon, really. Every Mormon is a cafeteria Mormon, but maybe there's some are more don't choose some of the more obvious stuff. So yeah, I have been back a few times, but now at this point, if my wife needs me to go, and I'll happily sit through meetings. I'll probably be on my phone a lot, but I'll happily sit through and listen and talk to them.
Coping strategy, yeah.
Yeah.
I used to be on my phone a lot at church because it was an anxiety thing with me. Jane will tell you that. Like, I had to sometimes be on my phone, and my mum sometimes would make comment, on your phone, and I was like, well, would you rather I was there and on my phone to ease my anxiety, or would you rather I just didn't come?
Yeah. So I'll go. In fact, I think when they first started opening up after, during lockdown, where it was like only 30 people or whatever, two of my kids wanted to go because they hadn't been for ages. So my wife didn't want to go, so I just went and sat with them. I think we just did sacrament, and then yeah. So I'm quite happy to go, and if there's an activity on, I'll go to that if the family want to go. At the moment, they're not keen on going anyway, but I'm certainly more than happy to go to church activities. There's like I said, our stake has done a dance festival for the last, I want to say, for many years. So I'm usually, my wife was the choreographer for many years. Every time she did it, she won. So, but I'd always go and I'd always video it, and yeah. So I usually like getting involved behind the scenes on stuff like that. I think I get that from my mum. My mum's really into she's in a small. Well, it's actually a ward, even though there's like 20 or 30 people attend, and she's always organising activities and just really keeping that community spirit going. She didn't like that. I don't attend church or believe it anymore, but I think her enthusiasm for just keeping the community going is something that I've picked up from her, and I think having a community is important and amazing, and as I think about it, so what if they believe weird stuff? It's a community, and the community is more valuable than the beliefs that bring that community together, I think. So you can go and believe in a spaghetti monster, but as long as you're all together and helping each other and giving each other social support, humans are social animals. I think the community is the most important aspect of it. And I can see my ex-Mormon brain thinking, yeah, but the church is damaging, and there is that. So I think at the local level, I think the local ward can be amazing, and maybe some of the hierarchy is above the ward level is maybe a bit more challenging, I think. So,
Mark, I feel uncomfortable about asking this question, but it's the one that I think most people want to know, would ask ex-Mormons. What would bring you back?
what would bring me back?
If anything.
I think it would be copy the community of Christ. Just take their belief system and their social, and just put it into the LDS Church's organisation. Give away a load of the money, because that's what the community of Christ would do. I think dropping the truth claims, dropping the worthiness demands for worthiness, which I think is it's crazy. I think more social justice movement emphasis. Common consent, like Peter says, let's all take a part in the decision making. Stop making tithing a requirement. Not just tithing, but all the temple recommend Christians. Just get rid of them. I know some people in the church like to say, the church does believe in grace, but if you truly believed in grace, you wouldn't have a temple recommending of you. it wouldn't be a thing. Yeah, it wouldn't be a test of faith. So it's. I think we need to. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, but the community of Christ is a good model, I think.
Let's this comment from our friend and fellow Brit Venger Nemo the Mormon. Mark just wants the church to show some humility. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Would you,
yeah.
where you come from?
Put some big boy pants on, and admit that they were wrong, and just
Yeah, they're never going to admit that they're wrong.
No,
They
and
might
I
change
think
things, but they don't ever stand up and say, we were wrong, I'm sorry.
yeah, there's too much a vested interest, I think, for a lot of people.
So
I've got a good friend who I talk with quite a few times a week. He's actually an old missionary companion, and he keeps on saying, "Mark, you're going to come back. The church is changing," and he keeps on threatening. He reckons I'll come back one day, but I don't know. It'd have to change a lot for me to feel comfortable.
Yeah, I'm
to
the
count
same.
myself. I'm happy to go back and participate, but to count myself as a Mormon again, a member of that church, I think they'd have to change a lot. So
I'm getting to go to the church for the first time since before lockdown now. This will be my first time walking into a building because I have a funeral tomorrow.
Wow, okay.
And it's someone that I knew very well, so I feel I have to go. So I'm a bit nervous and anxious, to be honest.
Yeah.
I keep saying that the building's going to come down, falling down round about me.
Yeah,
It's just been so long.
I think that's such a common feeling. I mean, everybody. My kid was saying exactly that. The first time I go to church, I'm gonna light on fire. And I think the reality is, or at least where I come from, is I want a church. I want my church to be full of my people, my friends, the people that I made covenants with, and that I still, just because you're not coming to church anymore doesn't make you any less mine.
no,
I'm very territorial about that. So while, and I know that this can be an incredibly problematic thing to say, but I genuinely do feel like yourself, like friends and people who I expect to see at church, who are not coming back anymore. They're still my church.
yeah.
That's I would love for church to feel like home again.
Yeah. I want it to feel like. I think it'd be really good if it could feel like a real more, more of a community. But part of me, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, well, why don't I just go in and muck in and just get involved? But there's those those expectations that the church currently has of membership. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
but that I've said to my friends, I say, if you want to give me to give a talk on Sunday, I'll give a talk. It might not be correlated, or but I'm quite happy to do that. What's it like to do
And
an
how good would that be?
Yeah.
Seriously, to have, I mean, to hear talks that are real, to hear comments in Sunday school, to hear elders quorum. Okay, we will never be in there.
Yeah.
But, to hear, no, actually, that's not quite accurate. Here's something true. And you should be able to handle that. That would be wonderful and enriching, and
Yeah.
we're missing that.
I think that the ex post Mormon, or whatever you want to call this community, is. I think that there's a lot of wisdom there because they've been through the fire. Obviously, the people who are probably angry, they might be a bit controversial to give talks at a fireside or something like that. But I think I think there's a lot of wisdom in the ex Mormon community, and they could give constructive criticism and also maybe give a talk about what they loved about the church. I don't attend anymore, but these are the things that I loved about the church, and then these are the things I'd like you to do more of.
We have been able to see occasionally some stake or ward will do something really cool, and you hear about it on the grapevine. But and in the UK we've got a couple of wonderful people who also hang out in the Sunstone world, who are active Latter-day Saints, who are putting on incredible firesides. We got to hear one from on mixed faith relationships,
Yeah.
where we heard from someone who no longer comes to church.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
heard from a gay member of the church. We heard from someone who's married to someone from another faith. We heard from a mother whose kids no longer attends. And it was non-threatening, it
Yeah.
was respectful, it was the most inspiring fireside I've ever attended in my entire church life.
Yeah.
It was that good. Those kind of things are happening because there's a need to hear it. We're educated, we're enlivened and stimulated by those discussions. I think there's so much there's so many possibilities right now where we are, and
Yeah.
waiting for something to change isn't necessarily, we could be waiting a while. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And yeah, we need to, those extra additional voices would be amazing to hear. So,
Absolutely. So let's talk for a little bit about what to expect this Sunstone weekend for those who are going to catch up online afterwards, who are not able to attend, and for those who are still thinking about attending, and what happens. What are we in store for? I know Julian and Laura spoke a little bit about it last week. Let's just remind ourselves what's
yeah. So
happening.
Sunstone is like Mormon Comic Con. If anyone's been to Comic Con, I haven't, but I've seen
That's mad.
pictures.
That's
It's
mad.
like Mormon Comic Con. So we've got all the weird and one. We've got people from across the spectrum coming and talking and mingling and in a COVID secure way, by the way, all together in a few rooms. So we've got talks from about ex-Mormon parenting from the Hands. We've got Peter Bleakley talking. We've got Nemo. We've got Richard Barrington from the Community of Christ. We've got the amazing 21st Century Saints with a guest host. So that'll be amazing. And then also we've also as a keynote we've got Natasha Helfer Parker is coming to us virtually, so that'll be really cool. And then we've also got Stacey Cram, who's in the first presidency of Community of Christ. She's also their presiding bishopric, so she's the financial whiz, but she's going to be talking on common consent and how community. So that'll be really interesting. And then on Sunday, I'm helping to organise a worship service. So it's going to be an ecumenical worship service. So the goal of the service was to have something that would be that would make both Community of Christ and LDS people feel comfortable. So what we've done, we've taken the LDS format of a meeting with opening prayer, opening hymn, sacrament, blessed and passed by females, by the way. And then we've got some talks and closing hymn and closing prayer. So we followed that LDS format to keep the rhythm through, but we're using some hymns from the Community of Christ and hymns that are shared as well, and also a spiritual practice. So it'll be a really cool ecumenical service that we're going to have on the Sunday. So it'll be a really good weekend, amazing weekend. And then in the evening, Julian and Laura have got some interesting activities planned. Disco karaoke or something was mentioned, I think.
I hear there's a rap battle going down. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Alana, what are you most looking forward to on Sunstone weekend? Is there anything that you're really looking forward to seeing? Shall I remind you?
Go for it.
The Han family parenting one was
Oh,
one
yeah.
I knew you just.
Yeah, I know. You know what I'm like. My brain just thinks too much.
Because we just need a break.
It is. I mean, I am excited to go to Sunstone. Like, I'm not going to deny that. But for me, a big part of it is just getting a break, because things have been quite tough these past few weeks with my little one and stuff. So, yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. And I'm like, I better not get COVID. I better not. Because honestly, I think it would break me. You know, people talk about that shelf breaker. That would be a shelf breaker for me. I would just crumble. Like, you would need to pick me up and drag me somewhere. Like, I think it would break me.
And, I had traditionally found my, what would you call it, my tribe, my people online. That was where we used to have to go back in the day, when people really didn't talk about this and church history was just being spoken about. You had to go and find your people on the internet, and being able to go for the first time to Sunstone, not only was it intellectually stimulating. It was, you were finding your people that, you know, we don't necessarily all believe in the same way. You know, our faith, our faith practices will look very different if we, you know, for those who have them. But we were all able to be connected from this world of Mormonism. It was so good. So yeah, I need a break because I'm so looking forward to coming down and finding my community.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah. This is your other ward. Yeah.
yeah. But definitely, we were talking about the Han family's presentation on parenting after
Yeah.
Mormonism. I'm really looking forward to the Sunday, I have to say. I'm
Yeah.
really
Nemo's
looking forward
Sunday
to
school.
this.
Yeah.
Oh, Nemo's,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
that because that's something I always talk about. Like, Sunday school for me was just like, because again, it's the same stuff over and over. And so I'm quite looking forward to just seeing how it could look, even though I don't think it ever will look like that in an LDS church building. But I'm interested and keen to see how that will actually look. No pressure, Nemo. No pressure.
Yeah. And we're also going to be doing a interesting service project, and that's going to be incorporated into the worship service as well, relation to Afghan refugees. So, you know, we're not just sitting there in our ivory tower praying to help people. We're going to, you know, help do a real service project as well. So
I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
That's
And
something that's
Nemo and
really missing for me
Peter
from church.
rap battling. I wonder if we're going to do the Mormon rap. Does anyone remember the Mormon rap?
Mormon rap, Mormon rap.
Yeah,
Hey, brothers and sisters, listen to me because I'm talking to you religiously.
yeah. That's it. You know it. Yeah.
I love Crazy Mormons. This is what I'm here for.
I used to love that song. I used to sing it all the time.
Yeah,
I think I'm blushing here.
So yeah, I think definitely so many people are going to wish they were in the room with Nemo the Mormon teaching Sunday school. That's going to be spectacular. What do you think? What are you most looking forward to enjoying yourself? What are you looking forward to, Mark?
People. I think it's just meeting people.
Yeah, same.
And the meal and just the community. I think
Yeah.
that's you know, really important for me. Yeah, I try to think any of the particular talks. I am interested in the Stacey Cram because I like how they've done common consent. So how do you take a big church? Because I think she's going to use their one of their big issues, maybe the LGBTQ stuff, as an example, and how they you know, took a whole church through that journey. And I think I think it'd be an amazing lesson on how to you know, reform a church, really, or, you know, move a church
And I
forward.
think, Alana, you've been talking about, you were really interested. I mean, there's everything looks so good that, you know.
Oh yeah, I got quite excited
Barry,
reading what was going on.
yeah, Mormon Mad is going to be doing photography stuff, how to make your life look better. I mean, just fun and stimulating and interesting. So it's definitely, it's going to be great.
Mormon Comic Con. And there'll be lanyards and all that sort of good stuff as well. So I think there'll be swag. Yeah.
Oh, it really is going to be great. So if people want to know more about Sunstone, so as far as I'm aware, we can't do live broadcasts, or we're not going to be doing live broadcasts. We will be.
Well, I think the Natasha Helford Parker thing is right.
Yeah. So
I think we could, if we can get we probably need to discuss this offline, but I think we could if we can get a decent bandwidth. But I'm conscious of the time of day as well, so
yeah. I think that was Julian's concern, was just like, you know, if people are paying to watch live and there's technical issues or Wi-Fi issues, you know, and people have paid this money to watch and things.
But people will be able to watch the videos, which will be released later on. So you know, bare minimum, that's a definite. So if you can't be there, if you want to see these great presentations, these great, you know, just go to the Sunstone website where you can find out more. In addition to that, it's probably just as easy to go find Sunstone UK Facebook page, where all the information is there, and you can ask any questions that you might have. There's also, and I really want to emphasize this too, there is the Sunstone UK discussion group as a separate page on Facebook, where lots of great chat happens, and if you're looking to find your people in the UK, that's a really good place to start. So to wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to share, Mark, just as we're closing? Any thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience?
No, not really. I think well, I suppose my thing is let's build bridges, bring back road shows, bring back dances, and let's try and be kind to each other. I think, because I think kindness, a carrot is better than a stick, in my view.
What a great philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We can't wait to see you next weekend. So when you are taking over the show on the weekend, our audience are gonna know a little bit about who's hosting.
Lovely.
And we're really excited to see how this is all gonna go. Thank you for your time tonight, audience. We just want to remind you to subscribe on our YouTube channel, to like our Facebook page. You can also come and find us on TikTok. There are lots of different ways that you can support the show. If you want to get in touch, do just drop us a message. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and we'll see you next week.
Next week. Thank you. Thank you.